Hello and welcome to the weekend worship service of the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. I hope that you all had a wonderful holiday and that you're looking forward to a new year full of new possibilities. Perhaps one of your New Year's resolutions is to join a church community or to become reacquainted with this one. If so, I'm especially delighted that you're here with us today. Please visit our website, slcuu.org, or our social media channels to learn more about our congregation. We begin our worship service today, as every week, with the lighting of the chalice. The chalice is a sacred flame that represents Unitarian Universalism all around the world. We light it today with these words by the science fiction author Octavia Butler. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change.
As we end this very difficult year, we are called to imagine our lives in new ways. Today, I have a book to share with you that encourages us to imagine a world not yet seen. Imagine a World by Rob Gonsalves. Imagine a world where the beauty that has fallen can find a way to fly. Imagine a world where songs in the night awaken sleeping streets with a melody each home welcomes with unlocked doors and open hearts. Imagine a world where the challenge of riding on rough and rocky seas is also a chance to climb the highest peak. Imagine a world where even the deep, dark places are treasure rooms of marvels, silent echoes of towers in the sun. Imagine a world where each word, each thought, each turn of a page in a book is the beginning of a bigger idea. Imagine a world where city lights float from their frames like a flurry of falling stars to brighten your way. Imagine a world where scissors snipping through the golden air conjure mountains that move. Imagine a world where patience, practice, and balanced steps make you master of walking on air. Imagine a world where, with the help of a guide and strength of your mind, you can visit the vastness of beyond. Imagine a world where the pull of the wind is a hidden partner in a dance that guides the performers to greatness. Imagine a world where you're invited to step out of your solitude and join in the joy that you make. Imagine a world where you can dive into a salty sky, soar over submerged lands into the secret gardens of the sea. Imagine a world where you can climb up to the valley, paddle along a branch, and feel the cool shade of a forest from a single tree. Imagine a world where the words you share with others can bring them warmth and light. Imagine a world where rushing water steps and spins to life in the rhythm of nature's dance. Imagine a world where the breeze of dawn each day brings the scent of adventure and awaken the woods that let stones set sail. Imagine a world where you can wander weightless on the earth and dream upon the sky. Imagine this world.
I'm not exactly sure I know what did it. Maybe it was one too many foul-mouthed tweets. Maybe it was another wink to the violent, extreme right wing. It could have been the relentless rise of the COVID death toll, or just one more social event where people refuse to wear masks against the hoax. Maybe it was one more unarmed young black man shot repeatedly in the back, or the rigged election, or the wall, or the glaring inequities in society exposed by this pandemic. Whatever it was, a while back I turned to the new wonder in my household and I said, "Alexa, turn off 2020. I've had enough, thank you. Let's turn off 2020. Nothing happened. I thought I may need to call customer service or something. Then I had a new approach. I said, "Alexa, turn on the radio, turn on the heat, turn on the lights, turn on the new year. Let 2021 begin right now." Nothing. Everything turned on, but it was the same year. It occurred to me, probably along with everyone else, that we're stuck with the year that we would like to forget. Some years are like that. This year is one we will positively, certainly never, ever forget. I mean, from every kindergartner who suffered through distant learning, through to the elderly terrified of the virus in their care facility, this will be the year we will all remember. It was a pretty long year, and not only because it was a leap year, although it was too bad that we had an additional day to negotiate in 2020. So I pause now to look back at an almost completed year. And, I'm not about to say, it wasn't that bad. We now have a new vaccine, a new president, a new year. Hey, we made it through. No, it was hard. A very hard year. And we felt acutely the weight of sorrow and disappointment. But, and it's important for our own sanity to put this but in place, but we also learned of a deepening love, a strong love, so strongly connecting us to family, the family that couldn't come to celebrate these holidays. I mean, oh my God, did we miss them? Probably more than we ever could have imagined. So there really was this deepening love. We also deepened our appreciation for our friends who keep us engaged and make us laugh and think, and who are playful and whom we can rely upon always. We learned about the truly courageous commitment made by medical personnel, an unending stream of stress and risk as they delivered comfort and healing even to those who chose not to play by the rules. I wonder if you feel the same way, that in our frustrations and fears and anger and defeats and losses, we forget all that heals. All that, it's still there. We forget all that heals, that still abounds. There is a lot of kindness in the world. And we saw it reflected in the generous acts of others. We saw it even in ourselves. I believe many of us actually grew kinder in 2020. And we witnessed a lot of compassion in 2020, in hospitals, on the streets, and even on Zoom, where we tried so hard to remain connected with one another, and became good listeners. We're on the cusp of a new year at long last. It's a good time to imagine what is yet to come. Now, I hope it's realizing that we all, forget shades of red and blue, that all of us awaken to the most basic and fundamental reality that we are all tied to the same destiny. No one, no tribe, no bubble is saved alone. We're on the spaceship Earth together. We need to stretch more in touching the lives of others, or we're all going to go down together. So as we meditate now and prepare to enter into a new year, may we honor the truth of our lives. May we grow in the love of life that keeps before us newness and freshness of the Spirit. So yes, let us enter the new year with a freshness of spirit, ready to transform the world with our love. Amen.
Where is the future? When we think of the future, we often think in terms of when, not where. But sometimes the future has an address of its own. And one place the future lives is at 75 Amherst Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in Building E15. That's the home of MIT Media Lab, one of the most futuristic places in the United States. In MIT Media Lab, art, science, engineering, and design all meet and overlap to create some of the most innovative materials and technologies in the world. Some of the first touchscreens were developed at the Media Lab. Imagine things like building materials made out of casein, a milk protein that biodegrades but is as hard as concrete, or 3D glass printers, or buildings of silk made by silkworms. One professor at the Media Lab says of their work, "We often find ourselves finding solutions for problems we don't even know exist. Instead of problem solve, we problem seek." Or as another researcher put it, the Media Lab is a place where you have to think about things 50 years out, at least, or 100 years out. If you're making something that's applicable to the world today, you're too late. Now, how do you live in a headspace like that? Many of us can hardly keep up with today or tomorrow, much less imagine 50 or 100 years into the future. Maybe we can sustain that kind of imagination for a little while, a few minutes, an hour, long enough to complete a project. But to live in the future, often we find that's hard to maintain without the present itself breaking down. We've got bills to pay, kids to wrangle, appointments to keep. Who's got time for the future? And especially in a year like this one, at the dawn of each new year, it feels natural to take stock of the past 12 months and consider what the next 12 may bring. But have we ever been more enthusiastic about pulling down a calendar and replacing it with another than we are this year? All year, we've felt as though someone else was driving the vehicle. And we were just along for the ride, barreling down the highway at top speed, headed nowhere good. It goes without saying that we'll all be glad to see that ride come to an end. But it goes even deeper than that. When everything seems to be crashing down at once, it's hard to imagine very far into the future. I'm hearing from you that you're struggling to plan more than 1 or 2 weeks into the future. Imagining something like the start of school next year or planning a vacation just seems impossible. And the more weight is piled on you, the harder it is. Financial struggles, mental health issues, identities that put you in oppression's way, all these can make your future foggier. And this year, we've all been in a fog. Even those of us who are fairly privileged and comfortable have been hit by the 1-2 punch of the pandemic and a government frozen and pushed toward fascism by a conservative party gone completely off the rails. To reckon with the fact that thousands of Americans have died of COVID-19 while watching as every social justice cause we've ever cared about was attacked simultaneously, it was all too much. The losses have been so great. How could we look toward the future when we were just scrambling to hold on to the day, to not lose anything else? Do you remember back in 2016 when Donald Trump was first elected to office? I remember. What I remember most was the Women's March, which I attended in downtown Chicago with 500,000 other furious souls. I remember teaching myself to knit so that I could have a bright pink hat to wear. I remember the sound of thousands of people shouting in unison, the clamor ringing off of the skyscrapers, the press of the throng down Jackson Avenue. I remember, too, how many of us briefly became members of the Rebel Alliance. The long-awaited 7th film of the Star Wars saga was released in 2017, and the idea of resisting the First Order mapped closely onto Generation X's opposition to the new administration's tyrannical tendencies. Star Wars fans everywhere drew on our nostalgia for Skywalker, Organa, and Solo, and #resist became a rallying cry. But now, the Rebel Alliance has gone the way of pink hats and safety pins. Remember those? Although it was successful enough to produce the biggest voter turnout for a presidential race in history, it didn't prevent the enormous damage to the foundations of our democracy. And last week, I heard Education Secretary Betsy DeVos telling career officials in the Department of Education to be the resistance when the new administration takes office in January. That's when I knew our moment of resistance had officially passed. It's one thing when the oppressed are resisting, but when the wealthiest and most powerful become the resistance, then maybe resistance has lost its meaning. And let's be honest, resistance is exhausting. Resistance is fueled by anger, fear, even hate, which are cheap sources of energy that inevitably lead to a crash. Anger and fear are corrosive, and they wear down our moving parts so that continued bursts of energy only wear us down even further. And deep down, we know that fear and anger push others away from us, even if we are absolutely justified to feel them. They corrode relationships and make us turn on one another. As one Star Wars character put it, we won't win by fighting what we hate, but by saving what we love. Even though we can't completely stop resisting, we just can't live on the defensive forever. At some point, we need to know what we are fighting for. Now, I believe the future has never been brighter for progressives and our causes than it is right now. Why? Because morale in the United States is so low. People are hurting, even people for whom the system was supposed to work. The wealth gap is wider than it's been in generations, and people are afraid for their retirement. The healthcare system is straining at the joints. People are terrified to get sick. Unemployment and underemployment are skyrocketing. Home prices and rents are out of control. Pollution chokes our air and water. Public lands tremble as the drills and bulldozers tread closer. People are tired. They're scared. And they're ready for a change that means something. We have a chance right now to take the wheel and drive toward the future we want for future generations. But it's not enough to think about the next 2 or 3 years, to create solutions that are applicable to the world today. We must imagine the United States of 50 years from now, 100 years from now, problem-seeking, just like the researchers at MIT, not just thinking outside the box, but throwing the box out altogether. Not sure where to start? Start with your moral or religious values and go from there. Imagine living in a country where homeless people or hungry children are unthinkable, where any government would be embarrassed to learn that even a handful of people don't have anywhere to go or anything to eat. Imagine going to the hospital, afraid to hear the news about your worrying symptoms, and going home with a treatment plan that you feel good about, and no bill coming in the mail. Imagine a country in which the last hate crime was decades ago, and your undocumented neighbors wave hello to you every morning on the way to work, unafraid. Listen, I'm just getting started. Add your own wishes. Don't be shy. Don't be stingy. Say it out loud. Even if you're afraid to think it under these circumstances, start with one wish, phrased in positive terms, maybe a roof over every head, or a stable, livable climate. And repeat it to yourself until you start to feel the knots in your shoulders release a little bit. Imagine it as if it has already happened in the greatest detail that you can manage. How did we do it? How did we pay for it? What sorts of supports are people getting in this new world? Imagine how people find themselves cared for by their neighbors, looked out for, loved. Imagine what it feels like when everyone belongs. Whatever your dream is, imagine it as if it were real right now. And imagine how the whole community is lifted by our care for one another. Imagine yourself lifted by that love. Feel exactly how it feels in your body. Don't imagine the victory of winning a battle against an enemy. That's not the nourishing energy that we're looking for here. It doesn't last. The energy we need for the long haul work of transforming our communities is the attractiveness of love and belonging. And then the next step is to start living there now. If you believe in democracy, do you use democratic processes in your family? If you believe in a green energy future, what steps are you taking to make your own commutes and errands greener? Every step we take toward the future that we want makes that future more real, which leads us to invest in it more and invite others to join us there. Author, organizer, and futurist Adrienne Maree Brown writes about imagination and how to use it to transform society. She reminds us that we are already living in someone else's imagination. Listen to that again. We are already living in someone else's imagination. Whose imagination are we living in? Or, to put it another way, she asks, who benefits from our fear? Who profits from it? When you're feeling afraid or hopeless, stop and ask, who's making money off of this feeling? Who is rising politically on the energy of my fear? Identifying that flow of energy helps us to stop giving in to that fear and instead lean toward belonging and where belonging exists in our imagination. Curiosity is the key to abundance, Brown writes. And she reminds us that we already have everything we need. There is already enough money to get everyone health care. There are already enough indoor spaces to house everyone. There is plenty of food so that no one needs to be hungry. We are not lacking in resources. We are lacking in vision because we are afraid of losing what we have. Brown asks us to consider the power of invitation in movements. If the power of our vision is strong and we share our vision with people instead of our anger, people can't help but be drawn to it. Everyone wants to belong. Everyone wants to be included. In the new year and into the future, we can build a movement where everyone is included in the vision of the society we want to create, and everyone has a role in helping to make it happen. The key to taking control of our future is to live in our imaginations, not someone else's. To have a clear view of the world we want to inhabit, clear enough that we can inhabit it now, at least a little. And then, instead of gazing into the rear view in resistance, we embrace, we attract, we invite, we encourage others to belong to this vision and make it their own. In the future, we all belong to each other and to the earth. Let's put both hands on the wheel and go there together. May it be so. Thank you so much for joining us for worship this weekend. It's been a joy to spend this hour with you, and I hope that you'll join us again next week. We extinguish our chalice by calling once again on words from Octavia Butler. Kindness eases change, love quiets fear, and a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest, the most intense of our chosen struggles.